I'm Kinga Moses. I use she, her, hers. I'm a psychology major and gender studies minor, and mm, I'm in Choreo Oreos. It's like a dance club. They do workshops on Fridays, and otherwise I'm an artist. My brain is like
It's okay.
sorry. I'm an artist. I make music and I dance, and I'm planning a show. So yeah.
It's really cool. So kind of just jumping into it. What are some things that you wish people knew about you instead of just being a victim survivor?
I guess I wish people didn't view like people who are victims of assault, like how you said, just as that. Like I would consider myself a good friend and like a good daughter, a pretty decent artist, but just like everybody else, like I'm not better or less than anyone because of it, and like I mess up too and things like that. Just kind of that type of stuff, yeah.
Can you talk about the events that led up to your assault? It's okay if you don't feel comfortable or if you don't want to share or talk about this. Just kind of like what happened, or even just the aftermath of what happened,
Mm-hmm.
how that impacted you.
Yeah, so there's actually been like probably at least three I could talk about, but one of the ones that happened on campus is the one that I'll talk about because I feel like it's most relevant. Basically, I was talking on and off with this guy that I kind of liked, and we had hung out before like with more people, and then there was a different night where he wanted to hang out, just the two of us, and this was like my freshman year, and honestly like I hadn't really talked to that many guys leading up to this point, so I wasn't really like super cued in on like things like when you meet late night it's like a booty call type thing. Like I guess I didn't really like fully think about that. Like maybe deep down I like knew that, but like I didn't want to admit it to myself because I liked him and I wanted him to like me back. So like one night he hit me up like really late night. I was pretty drunk and he was drunk as well, and then he came over, and we were talking and like kissing, which was fine with me, but I remember telling him like explicitly like I don't want to have sex, like those words like verbatim, and he still like continued to like try to coerce me into it, like like getting on top of me and just like like basically acting like we were about to have sex, and like I don't know, I just felt myself kind of giving in because it just felt easier, and I felt nervous and I was also drunk, so like I couldn't really fully make the decision as well as I would have wanted to. So like I don't know, I feel like it was upsetting. Like I didn't even realize what it was until much later. Like I remember the next day I felt really unsettled, but I couldn't really fully understand why. And it's because I didn't really want to do that, and like that had actually happened after a different assault a few months prior. That assault was at a party. I guess I'll talk about that just a little bit. But that one was at a party. It was a close friend. And that one was a lot more like violent. But because of that first assault, it kind of left me more vulnerable to a different instance where maybe if I hadn't have had that like trauma already in my system, I could have been like better about like being more vocal, although it's like not necessarily my fault, but just like to give some context of like maybe why I didn't speak up as much as I would have liked to.
Well, I'm so sorry that happened.
Yes.
And I know I can't offer more than an apology, and I wish that you didn't have to like be in a position where you verbally said no, and that he did not respect your wishes, and he didn't stop, and that you were at 18.
Yeah, I was like 19. Yeah.
19.
Mm-hmm.
Right from like starting college.
Yeah.
And for you to be like, also it is not your fault. I want to be that clear because it's not. And it's the fact that this was the second time.
Yeah, it was like twice within the span of like It was like 2 or 3 months.
So you probably didn't process the first time.
And like part of I learned this later when I was like in a support group, that part of like trauma response to assault is that you like want to have control over your body, so you might start having more sex than you would normally to kind of regain that control. And that was definitely something I went through, and it felt really unlike me, so at that time at least. So it was like, yeah.
Talking about the support group, what are other resources that have helped you not heal but help you in your sense of recovery? Because you never like recover from something as traumatic as assault.
Yeah.
But what has really been helping you currently with this?
Yeah, I mean, what helped me a lot is setting aside time to like cope with like the ramifications of like mental health struggles that come from this. PTSD is like a very real thing that affects me like every single day, unfortunately. But you know, things that help me, I feel like it's kind of corny, but it's just like my friends that, you know, validate me, and also just like we're able to just have fun and not really like even talk about this stuff. Like I'd rather not, but my sister has also been really helpful. She always like listens and is very like empathetic. As for like resources, more like I did do a support group at Aurora. That was pretty helpful. I think it was too fresh where I wasn't able to like participate probably as much as I should have. So I kind of just sat there, but I think it was still useful for me to feel like less alone. And then also like the hotline Rain. It's like just like a sexual assault hotline you can call anytime. I've talked to people there a couple times, just like random people, when I just feel really down. Otherwise, like some stuff I learned in therapy, like breathing techniques, or like just dancing as well, doing music, like doing things I love, are all things that help me.
So you mentioned your friends as well as your sister have been really supportive of you. What are some things that you wish that they could have done differently when you first told them, or even things that you wish that they can continue to do for you? Just because oftentimes people are like, I'm here to support you, and that's it. There's no follow through, there's nothing like that. Is that something that you've experienced, or things that you wish that people have done differently?
Yeah, I would say that's definitely correct, that sometimes people say that and don't follow through. I don't think it's necessarily like malicious or anything, it's just we all get so busy. And I think there's a misconception that like it happens and then you're fine, like, you know, a month or two later. But like I feel like this will probably unfortunately affect me my whole life. I feel like for like a few years will be really hard, and I'm hoping after that it gets better. But I feel like the best thing to hear, like now and then too, is just like being like, I believe you, like I'm sorry that happened to you, and just like saying you're not crazy, because sometimes it's like people really make you feel like you're crazy, like you made it up, because it's like only you and that other person was there. So if that other person starts to tell you that your experience wasn't what happened, and you know you're intoxicated, you're really gonna start second guessing yourself. And that's exactly what happened to me. I was just like I tried talking to one of the people, and it ended up being like he was like, you're lying, like that's not what happened, like we were both drunk, when I knew that in that particular case he was sober and I was drunk. So it's like it's a lot of just validation, I feel like, and also like maybe asking people what they want. I find sometimes like too much can be like overwhelming for people, especially like depending on the person. Sometimes if they have anxiety, like everyone swarming them is like a lot. And then there's other times where I want that, but then there's other times where I'd rather just kind of be alone and kind of just do my thing without having people being like, are you okay, did I do something wrong, like almost like, you know, making it their problem as well. Like I feel like some people are so empathetic that they like almost want to take on your emotions, but I feel like no one can do that. So it's like at the end of the day, like yes, people can help you, but like you really have to do that healing yourself. So, yeah.
What has been helping you? Do you have any triggers or things that people should know about, or do your friends know of like things that will like upset you and things that you need in that moment?
I don't really tell anybody about triggers, but I would say that, I mean, the biggest trigger is like seeing those people, which some of them go here. So there's that, or they live in the city. Things like that obviously is the worst. Outside of that, I feel like just certain places or circumstances, like getting too drunk. I don't really get super drunk anymore at all. I barely drink. Things like that are definitely triggering. I guess certain like phrases those people would say to me. And then just like really weird things like certain types of food and things that are just like related to the night or the day that it occurred. But yeah, I guess that's in terms of like saying something to me. I feel like when I get triggered, I don't want to talk to anybody. But so I don't really know. Yeah, I don't really talk about triggers with people. I feel like it's just like I don't have that many like friends that I would trust to talk to about that, to be honest. So.
Do you feel like you have a support network currently? Because you definitely talked about the support group at the Rare Center, but do you feel like you're getting the help that you need?
Kind of. I mean, I have a couple really close friends. I wouldn't say it's like a big circle, which isn't necessarily like a problem. It's like quality over quantity, but just as we're getting older, everyone's getting busier. So I feel like the like amount of importance I put on my friendships is not necessarily how most people see friendship. Like I feel like to me my friendships are like my family members because as far as family goes, like I just have my immediate family here and the rest of my family lives in Hungary. So like I feel like there's sometimes that lost in translation with people like that maybe I want to spend more time with them than they have type thing. So I guess it would be nice to have more support, but I'm definitely still like grateful for like the few people who have like consistently showed up like this whole time. Like for the past 2 years, it's only been like maybe 1 or 2 people, but then like those people and then also the newer people who have been coming into my life and accepting me as I am, versus trying to like fix me or anything like that.
Did you ever want to report or go through the reporting process?
I've thought about it. My family definitely pushed me to at first. I've been pushed by a couple different people in different instances to report. To me, I could just never bring myself to because I couldn't picture myself like in the hospital or like talking to police. I really dislike police, so I just couldn't see myself purposefully engaging with them about something so personal and trusting them with that when I don't even feel like I can trust like most people, even people I know, like with that information. And you know, the statistics aren't great on them. Like people know that already of like, you know, you go through that whole process and then to what avail, and then also like I didn't want to look back on college and be like, oh, like I was doing a court case like throughout college. Like I wasn't hanging out with my friends. I wasn't, you know, in school doing normal college people things. I was like in court, like with multiple rape cases. Like that's what I kept telling myself, like I don't want that. And like I think it's important to note that you have a 5-year like grace period where you can report things. So it's not like I'm not ever going to, it just doesn't feel like the option. Although there has been one time I reported sexual harassment. And I mean, the first response from the police was that it was kind of just shrugged off, to be honest. Like I remember one of the officers I talked to over the phone was like, yeah, this isn't serious enough for us to investigate. And then he was like, it just sounds like some like stupid frat joke. And I was like, okay. Like, and then like someone else ended up calling me later, and like the chief of like sexual assault, and she was a woman, and she was actually like helpful. But I mean, it was pretty fruitless, and I felt like I extended myself so much. Like, I was on multiple phone calls for that, like, one small incident. I think part of me was like, oh, if I have this little incident and I can do it for that and it goes somewhere, then maybe I can do bigger things. But because that went so atrociously, I was like, why would I open up that can of worms for, like, such a big... It would be, like, a huge, like, investigation with the court case, and, like, I would have to see the person who assaulted me, and then I'd have to see their friends maybe if they were there at that party, or it would just turn into this whole thing. So I was just like, I don't really want to do that.
I'm sorry that was the response that you got. That's unacceptable. Like,
yeah, it's kind of messed up.
The fact that they're almost trying to normalize sexual assault on campus.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he brought up frats was, like, ironic. I don't know. Just, like, yeah, like you said, normalizing it. Basically saying, like, oh, if a frat guy does something like that, it's just a joke. But
yeah. Almost like boys will be boys.
Yeah,
rather
exactly.
than holding people accountable.
Exactly, yeah.
Gosh. So this all happened. That's insane that happened all within that same year.
Yeah.
How has that, like, obviously that's definitely affected your academics and every other aspect of your, like, life, but what has been the support from, like, even professors? Like, obviously I know that you don't want to disclose this information, but have you been utilizing the Rare Center, getting those accommodations, or, like, what are things that has helped you during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really tell professors specific things usually, but I did get DRC accommodations, and I went part-time for a little while. As of now, I'm almost, like, a little bit overdoing it school-wise, and that's, like, on me, but I just really want to graduate. And like, not even just on some, like, senioritis type thing, but also just in, like, terms of, like, I don't like going here, and it's because of this, and, like, I don't feel safe on this campus, and I don't feel welcomed, and I don't feel appreciated, and, like, by, like, virtually most people and professors here. So it's, like, and it's not necessarily, like, I don't know, I don't think it's, like, necessarily they're bad or something. It's just, like, I feel just, like, it's not it for me. It's just, like, not what I pictured college to be like at all. Complete opposite. But professors, I feel like if I did talk about it, I feel like they would be understanding for the most part. Sometimes, like, some professors have kind of, like, pressed me to talk about why I need my accommodations, or, like, provide details, and I'm like,
Yeah.
And so, like, if I'm pressed to talk about it, I really, really won't want to. But if a professor, like, were to ask me a little bit about it, I would, or, like, just, like, bring up something related to that topic in class, like, I would maybe share if I felt comfortable, and, like, I felt like that professor had created a classroom that's, like, you're allowed to actually safely share your opinions without, like, them being like, Aurora Center, because, like, sometimes, like, it's good to, like, give people resources, but I think something that, kind of going back to, like, what do you wish people would have said, everyone who did find out, or a lot of people, not everyone, a good amount of people, maybe who didn't know me as well, would just send me resources, and as much as I do appreciate that, because I think it comes from, like, a good place, it got a little overwhelming and, like, almost insulting, because it's, like, I don't know if, like, it's just, like, throwing these resources at me is just, like, overwhelming me, and, like, maybe I'm not ready for them, you know, like, maybe I'm not ready to go to the Aurora Center, maybe I'm not ready to go to a therapist, like, right at this moment, maybe I need, like, a month to just, like, do nothing and just, like, exist and be a normal person, and, like, not be constantly in this state of mind. And sometimes it can seem like people are, like, telling you what they think you should do or what's best for you, or, like, go fix yourself, like, go to this place with the tools to go, like you're essentially the problem, right?
Yeah.
That's how it often, I feel like, not just me, but I feel like I've heard other survivors say, it's like you're made to feel like you are the problem that needs to be fixed and healed and, like, you know, whatever. But in reality, it's like, it's the people who hurt you in the first place who should be the ones, like, trying to improve themselves and, like, trying to, like, not do stuff like that and learn what consent is and, like, yeah, just not do it in the first place, but, like, also advocate on behalf of survivors and things like that. So that's where I think things get lost, and like it's all of society. It's not like one particular person. I just see this same frame of mind like virtually with almost everybody. But yeah.
Pretty much of like, we don't want to deal with the fact that our system's broken.
Yeah.
We just want to deal with person. We want to have a scapegoat almost, even though it's not your fault.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like I didn't necessarily always cope with it in the best, most constructive way. Like, I'd push people away or just, like, not act right sometimes. So I do regret that. I lost some friendships that way. But again, like, it's just so frustrating because it's, like, and I'm not trying to excuse, like, those things because that wasn't cool, but, like, it's frustrating because it's, like, if those traumatic incidents hadn't happened, it's, like, it was just a snowball effect. Like, the assault happened, another assault happened, COVID hit, and then I had to move home, and then, like, my PTSD got really bad. I actually ended up, like, in a mental, like, hospital facility for, like, a month. That's when I went part-time, and then I moved back to the cities, but I wasn't well for, like, mentally for a long time. Like, I was trying so hard to return to my life, even, like, and then with COVID, you know, but, like, I was trying so hard to, like, get back to where I was, but then I've realized there's, like, no possible way for me to do that. So I've just tried to make peace with the fact that where I'm at is, like, all I have, really.
Because you've lost so much.
Yeah, that's accurate. Yeah.
Like, the friendships, like, the time that you had to take away from school, all from this.
Yeah, I mean, we've all lost a lot with COVID, to be honest, though. Like, but...
Arguably, you've lost way more. But, no, that's hard to deal with, especially losing some friends, because you trusted them, you disclose this information, and then they're gone.
Yeah, it's hard.
And it's not really, like, your fault for not acting right, you know? Because...
Yeah, I mean, sometimes people also just grow apart. I try to tell myself that, at least. Because, I mean, like, yeah, some of those friends were high school friends, and I think it's normal to kind of go in different directions. But, yeah, it has been challenging at times to have that. But it is what it is.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us or want us to know?
I feel like something I wrote down I wanted to say. I guess, like, coming from the perspective of, like, a psychology major, like, we learn about trauma all the time and, like, things like that, mental illness. And something I didn't even know and, like, that I've learned about is, like, trauma can really, like, warp your brain, and it kind of puts you in survival mode all the time, so you're always really anxious, and you might just be more on edge. Like, if somebody says something, you just, like, immediately think that they're attacking you, things like that. Or, like, you see things, or, like, you get jumpy and see someone, there's nobody there, things like that. Like, trauma is so, like, affects you in every single way, like, every waking minute. And, like, I feel like not just the assault, I feel like the assault itself was hard, but it's, like, it's everything that followed after that's hard. And I think that's true for, I don't want to speak on everyone, but I think that's true for a lot of survivors, is, like, it's, like, what do you even do after that? It's, like, because, like, even admitting to yourself that it happened is, like, is very, like, hard and just, like, weird. You're like, why would that even happen? Like, it just doesn't really make sense in your brain. But then the part after where you're, like, trying to continue, like I said, with your daily life, with schoolwork, like, being with your friends, it's, like, all of it feels tainted by that, like, that little, like, almost cloud in your brain that's, like, keeping you so on edge. And yeah, so I feel like what I'm trying to say with that is just that I hope, like, or I wish that more people, and maybe after this video, I hope that more people, like, understand that, like, how, like, all-encompassing that is. Like, it's not something that you can turn on and off, and, like, it's hard not to make that not your identity, but it's hard not to let it affect you. Like, I feel like there was a time in my life where I over identified with being a survivor and like was too focused on that in terms of like I forgot about all the rest of the things I love and like that are important. But it's like hard not to do that because your brain keeps like bringing you back to those moments, to those feelings. Like, yeah, walking in a certain place, I'll be like thrown into a memory for a second and just be thinking about that, and then I'll just have to like keep walking and then go to class and like be extremely like upset, low key on the inside, but just like have to play it off. So I feel like, as people, I feel like something that I and like everyone can work on honestly in this whole situation is just like empathy, because if the people who had, assaulted, or if the people who were in that situation before they assaulted me had thought about how I felt, I hope that they wouldn't have done that. And like, I feel like sometimes when people say stuff like, maybe you shouldn't have worn this, maybe you shouldn't, like if people just took 1 second and paused and was like, how would I feel if somebody said that to me? Like, I feel like that's just something that could really help us all go a long way. Like empathy and just like thinking about how other people feel and how you make them feel, is so key. Because I just feel like with COVID too and just everything, like the world is just really messed up right now. Like everyone always says that, but it's like, I don't know, there's a lot of anger and hatred and like sadness, and I definitely am not perfect, but I try to give people the benefit of the doubt and like maintain an empathetic mindset even though like other people have hurt me, because it's like I try not to be too jaded. But yeah, I guess that was like a really long answer, but yeah.
No, it's hard because you're like, this changed me, but I don't want it to be the only thing that people know me for, and I don't want it to be my whole identity.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even I talked about this a little bit with you, but I'll just mention something small. Like, I spoke about this on Instagram more than once because I felt like you were asking me how, if I reported it, and I didn't formally, but I kind of took to like almost like community mindset of like, let me kind of try to get these names out there so that other girls can know about them and not be hanging around people like that. So that was like my intention, but it really blew up in my face. Social media is just very messy. Like people were messaging me like, what are you talking about? And there was just a lot of backlash. I think that's common. So it was confusing, but I forget what the question was.
It's okay. It's more hard because it's just like you want to take actions and you're doing it in your own way, but the people people just don't respond to it, or people are just almost ignoring it, or even just being angry over it rather than believing you or validating you. And it's kind of just like, I'm doing this because this is my experience and I don't want anyone else to go through that.
Right, yeah, I remember what I was going to say. I was going to just talk about the videos. I posted a couple of videos, like, recently, a couple months ago, and it was, like, a longer video. I just, like, basically very, like, factually went through things that happened to me in, like, a very just, like, concise way without leaving any gray area, anything. And I only talked about myself, and like the last time I had tried to do this, I just had incorporated too many other things where I incorporated other people's stories, and it's just like, I realized you can only talk on your own story. I mean, unless people like grant you consent, but even then, you're risking the fact that like, it just gets messy. You're bringing a bunch of people into it. Your own safety can be compromised. So I just talked on my behalf, and there were still people, questioning me, saying like, did this really happen? Like, asking me questions, and I'm like, everything's in the video. Like, it just, it was frustrating because like you said, I tried to do that. It didn't really go how I pictured it would go. I think too, like, the media does a horrible job of depicting sex in a healthy way, and often sex and violence are like intermixed to the point where people think that assault is sex. Like, they think that's normal. And like, I think some men who commit these acts think that it's normal. Like, they think that's how you have sex. So that to me is just like, ignorance. And that's a problem that goes all the way back to like consent education in schools and stuff. So it's like, this problem starts so early from when we first learned about sex, and then gets worse and worse. And then a college campus, you know, so now like parents, like a lot of people are having sex, like maybe for the first time, we're just starting to have more casual sex. So it's like horrible environment for that stuff to really come out.
Is safety, are you still worried about your safety still after
Yeah, I would say
videos
so.
or even everything?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. It's not like an insane amount of worry, but it's enough that it makes me have really bad social anxiety. Like every room that I walk in, the first thing I do is to look around at who is in there. Is there somebody in there that is the person who assaulted me? Is there a friend here? Like that's the first thing I do every time, and it gets exhausting because it's like I'm always looking over my shoulder. Like, you know, I don't think that anyone would necessarily do anything to me like in broad daylight. I hope not, but it's more just like I just really don't want to see them because I don't even know how to react. Like I just usually freeze, and it's like I just don't want to be caught in that situation. So that anxiety definitely makes me feel maybe not unsafe but uncomfortable. Uncomfortable enough that I'm like moving to a different state. So
Wow.
yeah, like I just don't really picture myself, no matter how much like therapy I do, I don't feel I could picture myself living in Minneapolis much longer, because I don't feel like that survivor mentality that I referenced earlier is like anything that anyone should be subjected to for like a long period of time. It's just like really tiring.
Because it prevents you from doing or trying new things or new experiences.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, I don't know who's
Mhm.
going to be there. I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
I'm worrying about your safety.
Yeah, I
all the
don't go
time.
out like that as much anymore. Like a good amount of my friends don't go here to this school. They go to like other colleges or live elsewhere in the city. Yeah, I don't really go out often. Like I don't get that much joy from like partying. Yeah, or I don't really try to join new clubs or anything. Just at this point I just feel like I want to say like kind of just fed up or like burnt out. Like I don't know if I want to keep meeting new people, because like what if I meet someone and then they're like weird and gonna try to take advantage of me. And when I posted those videos too, it's like some guy pretended to be my friend and then invited me over and like was like pressuring me to drink and like smoke, and then tried to, you know, hook up with me. And like I was okay with kissing again, but it's like it escalates so quickly. And then it's like people like that too, like they always like say stuff like, oh, whatever you're comfortable with, but it's always like so like they're saying that, but then they're like pushing you down, or they're like already trying to start doing something with you. So it's like, why would you even say that if like you're not gonna listen to my response? Like you have to pay attention to people's actions and not their words. And that's like in a lot of things in life, you have to pay attention to how they move and how they like treat you, versus because a lot of guys, like manipulative, abusive guys, will compliment you and be like, you're so beautiful, you're so this, but they just want to have sex with you. So it's like, yeah. Yeah, that like whole thing, like I have like one guy friend. Like I don't really talk to like men as much as I can help it. I feel bad about it. I definitely am trying to like work on that, so I don't like cut off a whole group of people just because of like some bad eggs, because I know that not all men act like that. But
It's hard because you're just like, I don't know who I can trust.
yeah.
And so you're just like, I gotta protect me because clearly no one else is looking out for me. There's no one I could really go for support.
Yeah.
Or if there is, no one really gets it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, twofold. You got it. Like it's, I don't really have that many people, but then also if I go there, I don't know if they'll get it. And it's like I almost like don't want people to get it. Like, so I'm not mad at people when like some things that people say, it's like, really? But sometimes people say things and I know that they mean it in a good way. They just don't get it. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if I want anyone to feel the way that I've felt continuously over the span of 2 years, like on and off. Because, I mean, I do want to look up the statistics, but I feel like each time you get assaulted, it's like a higher chance that you will again. So like once you get used to abusive behavior, you get normalized to it, and you think that that's how you should be treated, and that's definitely what happened to me. It's only been like maybe a month or two that I've really been like faced the fact that like I've tolerated a lot of abuse from a lot of men over the years, that I need to just not tolerate it. Like leave earlier.
It's hard because that's all you've known.
Yeah.
So you
Since college, yeah.
Yes, so it's pretty much you've kind of accepted it in a way, and you're like, you don't deserve that, no one does, but your brain is kind of like, oh, I'm used to it, I see these signs, okay, this is what happens next.
Yeah, I mean, at some point you get tired and you're like, oh, well, if this guy wants to, have sex, I'll have sex, even if I don't want to. It's like a shrug of shoulders type of thing.
Yeah.
That's where I was for a long time, was just shrugging my shoulders and letting other people make decisions for me. But that's, not healthy. And even though I got used to it, I definitely want to get used to healthy relationships and like healthy connections with people who see me as a human. Because at the end of the day, certain men will look at me in a way, look at women in a way, and talk to us in a way that we're not like people to them. We're just like means to an end of like gratification. So now that I've like learned more like signs of like what to look out for people who are like that, it's easier to avoid. But you do never know. Like it sometimes pops out of nowhere that they switch and they start using abusive language, or trying to have sex with you, and you're like, oh, what happened? We were just on this nice date, like we were having fun, like you're saying this nice stuff to me, and now all of a sudden it's like so different. It's like a different person, and it's like that's how abuse works. And I worked at a shelter for a little while as well, so like a women's shelter, so I really got somewhat of an understanding of like domestic violence, and these two things are really like hand in hand, of just people. It's usually people you trust taking advantage of you. There are instances where it's like kind of strangers, or like people that one night stand. That definitely happens, but the most that I've heard personally, and people that I know, it's usually like a friend, or like a boyfriend. It can be a boyfriend too, or somebody you have a thing with. Like that's what makes it so hard. It's like did it really happen? Because I care. What if I still care about that person and they abused me? Yeah.
Well, that makes sense as to why you're also not so willing to trust people, or letting people in,
Mm-hmm.
especially disclosing this information, because as you said, they can be abusive with that information, and
Mm-hmm.
what they do next you don't know, and so it's like it's a gamble.
Yeah, it is. I try to just like keep my guard up longer. I think that's good for anyone, like regardless of your life experience. Like don't tell people too much right away, because like you gotta just pay attention to how they're moving. Like, do they talk bad about other people? Like, do they respect their family and friends? Like those little like things and moments where maybe they don't see that you're noticing and observing, like those are so important. And I guess like I'm saying that partially as like a tip for other women, especially when you're getting to know a new partner. Just really, really paying attention. And of course, if anything happens, it wouldn't be your fault. But at this point, like realistically, this problem isn't gonna just end overnight. So I try to think of like preventative measures, both for myself and for other people, rather than, like I'd much rather like tell somebody like something like, oh, maybe try being observant, than like them like falling into the same exact situation that I did, going through the same exact thing, and then like again the preventative of like here are the resources, versus like maybe like just like carrying pepper spray. But yeah, these are like things that it makes me kind of angry to say them though too, because it's like going back to what I said before, it's all about education, and like the incident shouldn't happen in the first place. And I should send this to you, but there's like this video of it was like a guy harassing this girl, and he's like with this group of friends, and then it zooms in on his friend, and his friend is like having this inner dialogue, and he's like, should I say something, I don't know if I should, because it's a single girl. Yeah. And then the ad is like, he says something, he's like, knock it off, dude, because he's like getting all like into that girl's like space. And that was like the first like ad I've seen that's like focused on the like predator or the abuser or his friends, like, and holding them accountable, versus like being like, girls carry pepper spray, or girls like, you know, do this or do that, or like, don't go out too late, don't get too drunk, blah 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 blah. So I saw that, and I was like, wow, like that just really stuck with me, because I'd never seen anything like that before. And I feel like something like that being like more popular in media, whether in commercials, movies, etc., like everywhere, consent education, that being like a popular mindset of like, let's hold each other accountable, versus let's put everything on the girl, or it could be, you know, someone of a different gender as well, like the survivor, like let's hold like those people accountable. I thought that was really dope.
No, it is, because it's just kind of like the narrative has also been like preventive measures, and not so much of like holding other people accountable. And like, it's almost like you said, it's normalizing this behavior to a point where it's victim survivors will take the necessary action so that they're not in those situations, but they're missing out so much because of this traumatic incident.
Yeah, I would say I have a lot of trouble connecting emotionally with people, like, and not for friendship, but romantically, like the thought of a relationship, like I want it, but I also really don't want it, so if that makes any sense. So like, because it just like picturing a healthy relationship, I don't even know what it would necessarily look like. And I feel like sometimes when I get in situations where that could be a possibility, I almost feel like, oh, something is off. And it's like, oh, is it my trauma? Is it just that I'm not used to this? So navigating dating or anything resembling that is interesting.
It's difficult because, as you said, it happened so when you were like right when you were starting college.
Yeah.
So it's like that's pretty much all you've known.
Yeah, I mean, I had a boyfriend in high school, but it was like, I feel like it was more like, you know, like high school relationship type stuff. I mean, thankfully it was like healthy and stuff. So thankfully my first time having sex was not assault. I know some women who have had that, and that would be even worse. So I'm thankful for that. But yeah, it's hard not to let it change not just your life, but the way you view yourself. Like, viewing yourself just as something like sexually, or like over sexualizing yourself, or the opposite of like hiding myself by like wearing really baggy clothes that I don't even like, or like, you know, like hiding in the back at like a concert or something, like because I don't want anyone to look at me. Those are both the extreme ends, and I've been in both places, and I'm still in both places trying to find like, what is me? Because it's like college is all about finding yourself. So I'm like, who am I, like, aside from all of this, right? Like, just like aside from coping mechanisms and trauma, like, who am I just like at the surface? Like, what do I like to wear? Like, what do I actually want to do? Like, do I actually have like anxiety, or is it just like the situation? I mean, it's like in tandem, but it's like, yeah, because I used to be really extroverted, like very, very extroverted, and like ever since this, like, I'm just like slowly becoming more and more and more like, I'm still like personable, but I feel like I'm just not as open, but I hope I think it'll get better. It already is, honestly. I feel like I hit like the bottom a couple times. So I feel like the only way it goes up, like, honest to God, like the last, like, ever since like I want to say like February, I feel like things have been getting better, because January was the incident with the police I told you about. That was like really recent, which has affected my grades a lot, but that was January. So February was a little better. March has been decent. So I feel like just day by day, like, things will get a little bit easier as I like just focus on the things that make me happy, like music, and like the friends that are there for me, like just really appreciating them and like telling them I care about them and stuff.